For today's episode, we're taking a closer look at the beautiful Valentine's Day message shared by the Duchess of Sussex through her As Ever newsletter, a note that felt personal, reflective, and unmistakably Meghan. In a digital world that often rewards noise over nuance, speed over stillness, and spectacle over sincerity, Meghan chose something different. She chose pause. She chose gratitude, and she chose to speak directly to the people who have continued to support her journey. This Valentine's Day, the Duchess of Sussex reached out not with glamour, not with headlines, and not with controversy, but with warmth. Through her As Ever newsletter, Meghan offered a heartfelt message centered on the small, quiet moments that give life its meaning. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't performative, it was thoughtful. And for many, that's exactly why it resonated so deeply. For those who have followed Meghan's evolution from actress to royal to independent philanthropist and media creator, this message felt like a natural extension of her voice. It reflected the values she has spoken about for years: intention, mindfulness, gratitude, and connection. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. The newsletter included a striking black-and-white photograph of Meghan holding bright red balloons, a visual contrast that was both artistic and symbolic. The grayscale tones gave the image a timeless, almost reflective quality, while the vibrant red balloons associated with love, warmth and celebration stood out boldly. It was simple but powerful, a quiet image that spoke volumes. In her note, Meghan reflected on the importance of what she described as the small, quiet moments that make life feel meaningful. She mentioned a slow breakfast, a candlelit pause, the act of appreciating the people around you. These weren't extravagant gestures. They were everyday rituals. But that was precisely the point. In a culture often obsessed with productivity and perfection, Meghan encouraged something radical in its simplicity: noticing. "Today felt like a good moment to pause and say thank you," she wrote. It was a sentence that carried weight, a reminder that gratitude doesn't have to wait for milestones or grand achievements. It can live in the ordinary. And this wasn't just a general message floating into the ether. It was directed to her readers, her supporters, those who have subscribed to As Ever, who have followed her journey beyond palace walls and into a new chapter defined by independence and authenticity. "You are deeply appreciated," she added. That line, gentle but firm, resonated across social media. For many fans, it felt personal. In a time when public figures often maintain distance, Meghan has consistently leaned into connection. Whether through her podcast work, public speaking, or written reflections, she has emphasized community. This Valentine's message was another extension of that approach. It's also worth noting the timing. Valentine's Day is often commercialized, dominated by grand romantic gestures and curated online displays. Meghan chose to widen the lens. Instead of focusing solely on romantic love, she centered gratitude, family, and everyday joy. She reframed the holiday as a moment to appreciate not just partners, but friends, children, supporters, and oneself. And then came what many described as the sweetest detail, a peek into life at home. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. Meghan shared clips of her children enjoying a Valentine's-themed breakfast, festive touches, heart-shaped treats, and an atmosphere of family cheer. It wasn't over the top. It was warm, cosy, intentional. The kind of scene many parents recognize: small decorations, laughter at the table, the simple delight children feel when a regular morning is made just a little bit special. While she has been careful to protect her children's privacy, offering only brief and tasteful glimpses, this moment felt aligned with her broader message. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like heart-shaped pancakes before school. Sometimes it's balloons in the kitchen. Sometimes it's simply showing up. For long-time supporters of Meghan and Harry, these snapshots reinforce a narrative that often gets overshadowed in headlines: their commitment to family life and raising their children with intention. Since stepping back from senior royal duties in 2020, the Sussexes have emphasised creating a life grounded in autonomy, service and balance. Through their foundation work, media projects and public advocacy, they've spoken frequently about mental health, compassion and accountability. But equally important to them has been carving out space for normalcy. Valentine's breakfast at home may seem like a small thing, but in the context of lives that have been relentlessly scrutinised, it's a powerful statement. It says, "This is what matters." Fans were quick to praise the message online. Many described it as refreshing and uplifting. Others noted how rare it is for public figures to encourage slowing down rather than striving harder. In comment sections and reposts, people shared their own small moments of gratitude: morning coffee rituals, hugs from children, quiet walks at sunset. That ripple effect speaks to the influence Meghan continues to hold, not just as a former working royal, but as a communicator. She understands tone, she understands timing, and she understands that sometimes the most impactful messages are the simplest. It's impossible to ignore the contrast between this gentle Valentine's note and the often harsh narratives that have surrounded her in recent years. For every negative headline, there are countless supporters who see consistency in her messaging: gratitude, empowerment, mindfulness, community. These themes are not new. They are threads that have run through her public life, from her lifestyle blog days to her philanthropic initiatives. The As Ever newsletter itself has become a platform for that continuity. Rather than relying solely on interviews or formal appearances, Meghan has chosen a direct line of communication. A space where tone can't be distorted as easily, where nuance can live. And this Valentine's message fit seamlessly into that vision. By centering quiet joy, she also subtly challenged the culture of comparison that social media often amplifies. Instead of curated perfection, she offered real warmth. Instead of spectacle, she offered sincerity. There's something powerful about a public figure saying, "Pause, notice, you are appreciated." Especially when so much of online life can feel transactional. The black and white image with red balloons became symbolic for many supporters. Some interpreted the balloons as representing love that stands out even in monochrome moments. Others saw it as a visual metaphor. Even when life feels grey, there are bright pockets of colour if we choose to see them. Whether intentional or simply artistic, the image sparked conversation. And that's often where Meghan's strength lies, not in commanding attention through volume, but in inviting reflection. This is also consistent with how she and Harry have chosen to redefine their public roles. They are no longer confined by palace protocol. They are no longer limited in how they speak or when they speak. Through projects, interviews, and now newsletters, they set their own cadence. For Meghan, that cadence increasingly includes lifestyle, reflection, and storytelling. It includes domestic joy alongside global advocacy. It includes balloons and breakfasts alongside boardrooms and charity initiatives. Critics sometimes question this blend, but supporters see it as holistic. After all, what is advocacy without humanity? What is purpose without presence? Valentine's Day became less about romance and more about community, less about performance and more about presence. And perhaps that's why the message landed so well. In a year already filled with intense headlines surrounding the royal family, Meghan's note felt like a reset, a reminder that behind every public narrative are private lives. Behind every headline are children eating breakfast, parents lighting candles, families making memories. It's easy to forget that, but Meghan didn't. Her closing sentiment, "You are deeply appreciated," may have been directed at her subscribers, but it echoed more broadly. Appreciation is universal. Everyone wants to feel seen. Everyone wants to feel valued. And in choosing to highlight that, Meghan aligned herself once again with themes that transcend titles and geography. For Harry and Meghan supporters watching from around the world, including many of you here on this channel, this message felt like affirmation. It reinforced the belief that stepping away from institutional constraints allowed them to embrace authenticity more fully. No grand palace balcony appearances, no rigid scripts, just a newsletter, a photograph, a breakfast table, a thank you. There's a quiet confidence in that simplicity. As we reflect on this Valentine's message, it's worth considering what it says about the Duchess's evolving brand. She is leaning into lifestyle and intention without abandoning substance. She is blending motherhood with messaging. She is reminding her audience that meaning is often found in moments too small for headlines. And maybe that's the real takeaway. In a world that constantly pushes us to move faster, achieve more, and display everything, Meghan chose stillness. She chose gratitude. She chose to tell her community that they matter. That's not just a Valentine's sentiment, that's a philosophy. For fans, the black and white image with red balloons will likely remain one of those subtle but memorable visuals, a snapshot of a woman who has weathered storms, who continues to evolve, and who still finds space to say thank you. And the Valentine's breakfast clips? They'll linger too. Not because they were extravagant, but because they were relatable. Heart-shaped treats, laughter in the morning, a pause before the day begins. Sometimes that's enough. As we close today's discussion, it's clear that Meghan's message wasn't about headlines. It was about heart. It was about carving out a moment of calm in a chaotic news cycle. It was about acknowledging supporters who have stood by her through change and challenge. And perhaps most importantly, it was about reminding all of us to notice the small things, the candlelit pauses, the slow breakfasts, the people around us. Because in the end, those are the moments that make life feel meaningful. And if this Valentine's Day note is any indication, the Duchess of Sussex is continuing to shape her narrative not through noise, but through nuance. Not through spectacle, but through sincerity. And for many watching, that's exactly why her voice still resonates.